Hi everyone, thank you so much for downloading and listening to our very special episode with Rob, where Angie and I talk to him about his fundraising for his run that's coming up this week. Thanks very much.
We know each other because we're all trustees of the same charity, Somewhere House Somerset, and Rob is doing a magical thing at the end of the month-ish,
Brave thing,
25th of September, and we've dragged him along to talk about that and obviously talk about other things. Yeah, this is our second recording because the first one didn't work very well.
Excuse for a nice dinner, eh?
Yeah, excuse for me to bloody cook for these lot again.
You texted me saying, should I cook? And I thought, I can't go back too quickly and too eager to say yes.
I've noticed you both did that.
Really? Well, no, I was asleep. I was asleep. I fell asleep at 8:30 on the sofa and woke up and saw the text, and there was an invitation for food. And well, I can't swear because it's a podcast, but this word crossed my mind, and I thought, oh, drop the ball there. I'll reply at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
So, Rob, tell us about this run and all your preparation and your excitement doing the run.
I think it's well, the preparation has been, well, it started out as a crazy idea in February last year where I was massively overweight and restricted and isolated, and COVID was ripping through the country, and I just operate from a place of fear sometimes, and it was about trying to do something different and trying to, how can I care for other people if I'm not looking after myself? And I didn't see that eating 6 Mars bars a night when I got back from work was much in the way of self-care and approaching 15 stone. And I was approaching 15 stone, yeah.
Wow.
And decided that I was, well, because that's all we could do at that point was you were allowed a certain amount of exercise, and I had this harebrained idea that I was going to start running. So I went running up to the end of the seafront and got a stitch, broke a sweat. I think I might have done an injury as well, all in one go, because I remember texting Sean and just being like, run to the pier and got injured. And started off hating it and hating everything about it. But there was a part of me that wasn't going to back down from it. And here we are 18 and a bit months later and about to run the Bristol Great Run, and what seemed like something that was completely unachievable is now something that's not just so much about being a reality, but it's the will I stand up to it? Will my body stand up to it? Will the negative chatter stand up to it? Can I run the time that I want to run? And if I can't run the time I want to run, how's that going to impact?
No pressure then,
and so on and so forth. Yeah, but no pressure from outside. It's all an internal pressure. And as I've gone on and got fitter and fitter, the time that I wanted to run has gone down and down and down. And so what?
So where did you start, and where are you now?
So where did I start? So I've actually run the distance, and I ran that in January of this year. Just very quietly, and I think it was 2:18.
Okay.
2 hours 18 minutes. And so in my adult mind, I was like, oh, 2 hours. 2 hours, I'll be happy. Anything with a 1 at the start of it. And as I started to train, I needed someone to rein me in a bit, because quite frankly, running 10Ks every day for 6 or 7 days isn't that healthy, and it actually doesn't improve your fitness. I've learned that much in the last 3 months. So thank you for that. Got a lecture from Angie. No, not a lecture. I got a very direct challenge about being on the point of exhaustion, and I think that, truth be told, I probably was, and it was making me a not very nice person outside of that. And that was a good lesson, and a good example of what happens when you listen, because I have a habit of sometimes thinking in my own mind that I know best, and I clearly don't. So as time has gone on, so I turned to the girlfriend about 3 months ago, and I said, I think I can run this time. She looked at me, she said, you're out of your mind. I said, no. I said, I would like to. She said, you're out of your mind. She said, you can't do that. You've never done this before. You have an arthritic knee. You've had 5 knee operations. You're not a spring chicken anymore. All these wonderful, motivating things that you want to hear. Yeah. She just said, beside that, you're out your mind. You're out your mind anyway. That's the time. And no, I won't publicise what it is.
I know what it is because we had the conversation at the weekend about this, which is coincidental.
There is a time, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, but there is a time to the outside world, and there is a time to the inside world.
Okay. So will you give away the outside world time?
2 hours.
Okay. 2 hours dead.
1 hour, 59 minutes, and 59 seconds.
Okay.
And anything else on that is wonderful.
And anything else underneath that is wonderful, but the time that I'm going for is quite significantly underneath that.
Okay.
Fantastic. But it will be a. The thing is, I've never run anything like this. There's 10,000 people taking part. I mean, I run on my own, and if I did it this weekend, just gone. If I see someone, I'm just go rat up a drain pipe and I want to overtake them. Well, so that doesn't bode well.
Well, it won't if there's 10,000 people in front of you, because there's a lot of people to overtake.
Yeah, there is. Yeah. So,
what's the quickest time that someone can do?
So someone ran the Great North Run yesterday. I can't remember I want to say it's Kiplimo, and he's 21, 22 years of age. Really nice Ugandan guy with his smile just is one of those electric smiles that just lights up a room. And he ran it in 58 minutes. Oh, wow. Which is just insane.
Can't walk around my field in 58
minutes. But if you think about it, that's 13.1 miles in less than an hour.
Rob, can I just stop you there before we go any further in this conversation, that you are becoming a little bit obsessed about
it? Do you think so?
You're excited about it?
I think excited and a little bit frightened at the same time, but not in a bad way. Just there's a lot of money's been raised, and
how much are you up to now?
So if you include gift aid, and there's some that people have said, "Oh, put this on." I just haven't done it yet. Put this on, and I'll give you the money. That old chestnut. I think we're up to about 2,400 quid.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah. And
there's still time to donate.
There is.
And you need to say what you're donating for? Because I think
it's so the charity that we three are all trustees of is a charity that's really dear to my heart, and it's something that I've been involved in since I got sober in 2014. 2014. And I think like a year after that, I started to get involved in it. And essentially, the charity Summer House Somerset supports children and young people, adults as well, in the community, mainly in the Sedgemoor area, with support if they need it, in the form of counselling, in the form of school talks, where we go in and essentially we just try and terrify the year 10s and 11s in that, you don't know best, and we're not here to tell you what to do, but we are here to tell you what happens if, and use personal testimony, of which I have myself, to try and kind of educate and not berate them, but just to be real with them. We do a lot of work in schools. We do community events. There's coffee and chat mornings, 2, soon to be 3 a month. There's all sorts of things. There's quiz nights. There's jumble sales. There's car boots. There's literally anything. It is a community charity, so all funds raised will go to the charity, and specifically to children and young people who sadly we're seeing rocketing numbers of needing support.
Absolutely. No, I think what you're doing is fantastic. So I know you're really good at maths. So £2,400 is roughly equivalent to how many counselling hours?
It's about 120 hours.
And on average, we're seeing about 120 people a week.
Yeah.
So effectively, you doing this run is going to fund us to see 120 people.
Yeah.
Which is incredible.
Yeah.
I think that's amazing.
No pressure.
No pressure. No, absolutely.
I think I recently had a very good friend of family who's going to do a run in, I don't know, Brighton, I think it was. And she sadly got an injury. Sorry, Rob.
Don't talk about Maranoia.
And but she got an injury quite close to when she was supposed to be running. And she said to me, "Oh, do you want your money back?" Of course, I don't want my money back. You're raising this money for a good cause.
I'm paying you to do a run.
Yeah, I'm doing it. You're doing it for a reason. And I suppose there's always that dilemma, isn't it? When you're doing a fundraising event for a specific thing, and then you can't take part in that activity. That must always sit in the back of your mind
every day, particularly
as you get closer.
So yesterday. So what was yesterday? Yesterday was 11 miles, and it's almost trying not to overcompensate with stretching and with food and this, that, and the other, and have I got the right socks on, and have I got the right shorts on, and I'm just need to make sure I'm not going to be chafing, and all of these other things that could upset the apple cart.
I've got to stop you there, because I had a conversation with your other half saying, and I said to what you've been up to or whatever, and she went, "Oh, exciting. Shorts again." And I just laughed.
Just to get the right ones.
It's all about the comfort.
Of course. One of the questions I was going to ask actually is, what's your meal the night before going to be? And your breakfast? I'm really interested.
Am I cooking?
Well, you'll find out.
So I've been asked this a lot lately, and if I told you that, because this is all new to me, so I don't really have a clue. And I think I've learnt loads from doing this. I mean, the fitness side of things aside, it's a very good way to try and balance mental health, and it's a good time to think about the things that I think I need to think about. Perhaps ordinarily I might just avoid. But one of the things I was really cynical about from the start was how much food played an impact on how a body operates. And I think I've since learned that. So up until about 4 months ago, so when I ran the full length in January, I went out on an empty stomach with no kind of fuel or anything, just water, having not eaten since like 5 o'clock the night before, and I couldn't walk for about 3 days afterwards.
Wow.
I think now it's very much about, so what will race day breakfast contain? It'll be the same as it has been for the last 6 weeks, which will be a significant number of Weetabix.
I wonder if we can get advertising for
that. Some bananas.
And that.
And what do I have? Yogurts, like protein yogurts. But you have to
What
be
about the night before though? What are you
okay, so the night before, so had you have asked me this the day before yesterday, I would have said pasta all day long.
Yeah.
Just carb load.
Which makes sense, logically.
Yeah, but apparently that isn't always a good thing. You're supposed to have that 2 days before, and then on the night before you're supposed to have something quite plain, so that, or basically so that your stomach doesn't explode, I think is the only way I can put it politely. No one wants me to be doing a Paula Radcliffe. So I.
Right, sorry, you've just changed the subject here. Sorry, Mike, I'm going to interrupt the question, but what happens if you are running along?
Yeah.
Because I mean, obviously, my Dave and Willett run.
Yeah.
I used to run all the time, and I know what they had to do to deposit. But they had a field, and toilet roll on them, and a bit of privacy.
Yeah.
But when you're in the middle of Bristol, running around, what happens if that moment comes?
Okay, so I got asked this the other day as well, and apparently there are toilets along the way. But what I got,
Can you get your time stopped?
No. So this is the question I got posed. If it is a decision between the time that you want to run is on and nature calls versus the time that you're running that is going to be a lifetime achievement versus going to the toilet to relieve yourself and then therefore breaking the time, like not meeting the time, what would the decision be? And I can't honestly say that I would take the second.
But what do you do now? Because you don't have Portaloos along the way.
Okay, so at the moment, I have like one of these running backpacks with like a water, and I don't ever go anywhere without my phone, my house keys, an inhaler, and toilet roll.
Yeah.
And thus far, it's only happened once, and that was in the middle of January in Apex Park, which for those of you in Burnham-on-Sea, I did that.
How have you just admitted that?
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. And no, I'm not going to tell you where. And you do what you've got to do. So then I also then started researching. Okay, so what drives that? Because I had run on an empty stomach, and I've always been of the opinion we can't possibly go running, can't eat and then go running.
Yeah.
And the girlfriend was like, you can't do it. You're out of your mind. You can't do that. Like, it's not possible to do that because you're then going to need to use the loo. But for me,
believe we're talking about this, but here you go.
For me, it seems to be the other way.
No, I know.
And actually, and Angie knows this. So to get through the race, like, I've recently introduced energy gels, which are I'm getting used to them now. That they make them in all these god awful flavors, such as, what did I have yesterday? Mint chocolate chip. I mean, it's the only thing I can describe it as is a cross between baby food and snot.
And it's great advertisement, that.
And
we won't get sponsorship for that.
Thanks Goo Energy Bars. And they're just pure carbs.
Right.
They're just pure carbs, and some of them are with caffeine and some of them are without. And I've been testing with caffeine and without. Okay. But essentially, what causes the stomach to go is adrenaline.
Oh.
So so when people say to me, what's the thing that you're most frightened about on race day, it's adrenaline. for any number of reasons.
So my boys wouldn't get down the end of the road before they had to hop over a hedge, a gate, to have a poo behind the hedge.
We're all human, we all do it.
But it's like, so and it just goes to show how different, because I can't do exercise of any kind without having eaten, apart from ride a horse.
Right.
So guys, Dave always says to me, how do you do that?
Yeah.
When I used to run every morning. Before I went out, I always ate something. Always have done.
And and I think this is where my change in thinking has come from, being slightly cynical around food. The difference between, if you eat the right things, the difference between being fueled before running, i.e. having food in your stomach, like, take energy gels out of the equation. They're just to keep your heart rate down more than anything. But the difference between having eaten versus having not eaten is dramatic. Like 10 or 15 seconds a kilometre.
That's huge.
Yeah.
And I guess also, because you've been in training for this for such a long period of time, you've been able to test out different energy gels. You've been able to test out whether you run better on a full stomach or
you should have been at the conversation over the weekend, because I was chatting to a friend who's doing the London Marathon.
Okay.
And they said they run their marathons with jelly babies.
Right.
And then another friend runs them on Percy Pigs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those gel things, it makes them vomit. And don't even touch them. They're not worth touching.
Yeah.
And interestingly, when Dave did a big bike 50-mile bike ride, he tried the gels and he said they're disgusting. I cannot.
Yeah.
So he'd rather have a Mars bar. And I used to be a coach, which is why I started nagging Rob about many years ago. I trained to be an athletics coach. And so therefore, I kind of knew what he was doing was wrong, which is why I started nagging him. But you've got to find out what, like you said, what suits you on the day, but also don't be stuck by other people's religions, if you see what I'm saying. You've got to be open-minded about this. And if jelly babies work for you, doesn't matter whether they're a healthy option, you're going to run.
Exactly.
And if it's just popping one in your mouth, in the side of your mouth, and just having it there to suck on, which... whatever.
And I think that, so I again was quite cynical about the whole energy gel and stuff like that. But it's like, I've got this anxiety, not anxiety, but slight just fear of the heart rate going too high, and that being from just exhaustion and lack of energy. And
is that why the heart rate goes so high then, is it?
It's to do with how the body, help me out here, coach. It's to do with how the body processes glycogen which is stored in the muscles. And essentially, when you eat and you food load with carbohydrates, the body gets energy from two sources: carbs and fat. Fat is harder to retrieve energy from. Carbs is much easier, which is why you take carb gels on board or a carb-based drink, and it just goes theoretically straight into the muscles and not, straight out of you.
But I disagree with that to a certain degree, because if you don't have we are taught to have a balanced diet. And I know running X amount of miles is not a balanced thing to do. But if what you do is you only feed yourself the same food all the time, what happens?
Well, your body's just going to get...
Well, it just gets used to it.
Yeah, exactly. So if you add something different into the equation, then the chances are your body will then respond to that. And it's logical rather than
scientific,
if you see what I'm saying. And I know how you eat. So I know you well enough to know how you eat generally and what you do to manage your food. So I think sometimes you've got to be allowing yourself to be different and just do what's right for you, not what that man says or that lady says or that ever. It's about finding your own comfort zone.
And I guess that's the benefit of you having such a long lead-in time to do this. You've been able to try different things.
Yeah.
I imagine there's maybe a handful, maybe more, people that are going to turn up at the run who decided to do the run 6-8 weeks ago and have had virtually no practice. They've not bought the right shorts or the right chafing cream or whatever it is.
So it's no cream, Mike. It's all in the shorts.
But I think that's why you will do well, and you will get the time that you haven't told us about.
I'll tell you off camera.
Dave was saying to you the other day, wasn't he, when we were out together, and he was saying that he did a 27-miler.
Yeah.
Correct? He'd done 27-miler, and actually what happened was the next day he woke up and his ankle was out and he's not been able to run since.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Sadly, he hasn't been able to. But I think some of that is psychological rather than physical, because yes, you can convince yourself that bloody hurts, whereas in actual fact it might not be hurting at all.
Yeah.
It's just the fact that you've convinced you. And it's a little bit like coming to your diet. Oh, you've only really just been introducing these gels.
Yeah.
And you've been doing fantastically on the diet that you've got. So why are you doing it now and not doing it when all the way along? Do you see what I'm saying?
I think because I wanted to see if they could make essentially the time that I want to run requires me to run at an intensity that I would never ever begin to imagine was possible for someone that's so new to this. And whether it's psychological or whether it's physiological, if I take them at the right time, I can keep this in check, and I can keep the time.
Because you're an addict.
In check. Well, yeah, it is.
If you look at that addictive thinking, that is complete it's that, like, I'm not saying it's unhealthy. I don't put an opinion on it, but if you look at it in that sense, it's that addictive kind of behavior. But if you stuck to what you've always done and it's always worked for you, then why bloody change it?
Because it's about trying to. What I found was that I was a bit. I think when you challenge. Sorry, I'm just touching Angie's leg under the table here. When you challenge me about being on the point of exhaustion, which I think in hindsight was correct. I think that there was a point, and then after that, just cut it right back to 3 times a week. But there was a point where the training just flatlined, and it was like, okay, well, I've got to try something different. And I've run with wine gums, not with jelly babies, and it didn't make the blindest bit of difference. I've tried following conversation to run with banana. Can't get it down because it's too. I love bananas. Yeah, love bananas. Chocolate. Not convinced, but I will try it at some point this week. Because
there's significant different chocolate bars. You can't just do chocolate.
Mars bars. Yes, Mars bar or caramel.
No, Mars
just
bars.
Mars bar. Okay.
Because Mars bars have glucose in.
Okay.
Just sugar.
Okay. And I think what they've afforded me, as much as they're not that nice to taste, they are. There's been a noticeable pattern just in the amount. Just in like managing fatigue, basically. But then that also taps into like my old stuff of, well, is this performance enhancing drugs? Is it? And I'm looking at the box, and it's like, this has been tested by WADA, which is the World Anti-Doping Agency. And then I look at the label, it says safe for children. I'm like, okay.
It's an interesting point, though.
It is. Yeah, it is.
Crossed my mind,
yeah, it is. Yeah, and I'm just, because I live a really clean, healthy life now. It's the physical act of, am I putting something into my body that is falsely like chemically affecting it?
Yeah.
But actually, it's just carbs, which every body.
But aren't you doing that just by releasing all the extra endorphins that you're doing anyway? So in a sense, I know it's a natural way of doing it,
possibly,
but there is that level of addiction that can come with that, and lots of people have got themselves in trouble because of that.
But I think,
what do you do after you finish doing this race? What's the next step?
Oh, I have some plans.
Come on, can you share them?
Yeah, I can. So the ballot for London Marathon opens on the 1st of October. Yeah, I'm going to enter it. This lovely lady, who's also my employer, also, I don't know, you'd be signing my holiday off next year for April, and it's the week after the London Marathon. So that is, I think, a statement of intent.
I signed it off.
Yeah, you have. You did that already. And long term, I don't know. I think for as long as I enjoy it and I love it as much as I do, and as long as I'm physically able to do it, then why not? But I have also said from the get-go that I might only ever get to do this once.
Yeah.
And it might come to the day and I might be completely overwhelmed by it and hate every minute of it. I think that's unlikely, but I have to be realistic about that. But it gives me something that other things haven't.
I mean, I sit here with envy. I want you to do it, but I'm envious of it. I get really excited. And I think part of it is because I was a runner and now I can't. And I'm like, and the psychological side for me is the sadness of not being able to. I really want to. And then I think, I could just try. So every time you talk about it, it makes me want to. I can see where I've got a process and I can work through it, but I can see where other people feel like a little bit of a failure because they can't, or somebody that's overweight that doesn't think that they possibly could. And I know you said you started because you were overweight, but I mean, let's face it, the eyes of the world would never have seen you as overweight, which is what Mike implied.
Yeah, I was quite shocked when you said that. Yeah.
But it's like, it's having the courage to take those first steps to running, but also knowing what your limitations are. I mean, I could go for a run and then I wouldn't walk for 3 weeks. And it's not because of the exercise, it's because my body will go crazy at me for doing that. But somebody else could do that. They could go for a run. They could kind of manage their weight in a different way.
When you are running, do you talk to yourself about running? As in, I'm going to keep going, going to do this, going to do
I'm
that.
hoping he listens to the podcast.
Well, I have listened to the podcast when I'm running. Sometimes I listen to the podcast. Sometimes I will listen to an audiobook. Oftentimes I listen to music, and particularly on like long runs. Sometimes nothing at all.
Okay.
Sometimes I will always have headphones in, but a lot of the time that's about trying to just trap the noise out.
Yeah.
So like I run a lot in Bristol just because I've run most of the course. Well, I've run most of the course that I want to run. There's bits of it I don't want to run.
Is that a hill?
Yeah. Yeah. At Castle Park.
I keep laughing about the time. My flashbacks are William doing some hill work with you when you came and you went, oh my God, he's killed me.
I remember that.
Yeah, 4K, and he just went, right, well, we're going out here, and he's got these funny web shoes on, and I've been doing it for, I don't know, like 2 months or something, 2.5 months, just starting to enjoy it. Out of here, turn right, and then up this bloody great hill, and he's off. I mean, he's only got little legs, and he's off, and I'm desperate. And of course, male ego kicks in, and I'm like, I am not going to lie down with it. I'm not having that. Managed to keep up, and I've arrived back here, and honestly, I felt like there was a sense of elation, but there was also an underlying sense of, God, I've got some work to do here. Would I fare better against him now? Hopefully, I don't know. But I think, going back to what you were saying, I'm very aware that there's lots of people that would like to do it that can't. I think there's lots of people that would say that I shouldn't do it. and that I shouldn't be able to do it, having ruptured an ACL and had it operated on 5 times. Some would say it's stupid, but I'm able to do it nonetheless. And just whether it's 5K or it's 10K or it's 15K, or as it will be this Sunday, it's 19.5K. I savor it because I don't know for how long I'm going to be able to do it.
Is there a running club in Burnham where you live?
There's the Burnham Harriers, and if I get through Bristol, because it's lots of ifs and buts, it's if I get through Bristol and I enjoy it, because I've made a vow that the minute I stop enjoying it is the minute I'll stop doing it. Because
that makes sense, because you don't want to put yourself through something you don't enjoy.
No. And at the moment, I run 3 times a week. I have an app that tells me like what to run and when to run and at what speed to run. It's great. And it's the best £7 a month money could ever do. And obviously that come off the back of Angie kicking my backside and said, come on here, this is not right. And my fitness has just gone to a new level. If I get through Bristol and I want to join London, it's a good way to get a place, is to join a running club.
Oh, right. Okay.
But failing that, there's any number of charities that I have kind of looked at who I would raise money for in order to be able to run it. I suppose there's a part of I want to know what it's like to get across the line. And
if you speak to Tim, Tim, a friend of ours, if you speak to him, he could give you some direction about how to get there. He's doing it this year.
Okay.
Because they've done it a different time, haven't they?
That's because of COVID, and then next year it's readjusting.
Yeah.
I would love to do it. I mean, there's members of my family who would love for me not to do it, just because the automatic thing is, what happens if you get injured, and should you be doing that with your knee? But actually, I've been able to run thus far, relatively speaking, pain-free. So as long as I can continue to do that, I will.
But I suppose the connection between you having an injury and your history,
which you can talk freely about, it's fine.
Which is, it's not for me to. Is that bit which is you can see, understand where your family are.
Completely, completely. Because if you take it, 2008 was the first operation, and then 7.5. No, that's not that much because I was with you. 6 years of just utter carnage, and I think whenever I do something slightly not normal, because let's face it, there's nothing about this upcoming challenge that is normal, in terms of if you look at it from my history and what I should be able to do versus what I'm attempting to do. By rights, it shouldn't be doable. So I can understand their fears, but when they hear me say, well, is this it? What next? And I'm like, well, I'm going to go and run twice the distance in London, and I want to feel what it's like to get hurt and hit the wall. And am I going to manage? Will I cope with it? This, that, and the other. And then beyond that, I've made them aware that it's my intention to run the Race to the Stones, which is a 100-kilometer race, which I think is the one that Will and Dave were going to do, because that's
both got injured.
Yeah, that's just the prospect of running 100K straight off the bat. Can't even comprehend that. But then I couldn't also comprehend running a kilometer when I first started, and now I'm about to run 21 and a bit of them. So I think it's all relative. But I also understand people's anxiety about me being risky, because that's effectively what this is. It's no different.
I think that just shows the fantastic journey you've come on, and I know we're going to do more podcasts with you. This is almost a special podcast because you're doing the run, and hopefully we can talk more about the story that led you to want to do the run and everything on another episode.
Isn't there a bit though with anybody that does something that's as committed? They always take the risk of either performing that or not performing. I mean, we talked about that in business, haven't we? The risks that you take in business, the risks you take in friendships, the risks you take in working for a certain company. There's we are. If you don't take risks, you're not living. Surely.
No, I completely agree. And actually, if you look at, I think I've spoken to Mike about this. If you take a ruler and imagine that is me, and just bending it a little bit more, just to see how much further can I push, Actually, you run the risk of that snapping. And, there's a 5K on Wednesday, there's a 9.5K on Friday, there's a 19.5K on Sunday, then there's 2 6.5Ks, and then it's game on. So actually, I've got 5 opportunities to, not get injured over the.
Yeah, but you could fall down the bloody stairs.
Completely.
Completely.
You could and you know
pick
what?
up over something.
When I was driving back from Bristol this morning into work, I was like, truck's a bit close. What happens if I get killed in a car crash?
Please don't say
that. No, but it's that
but that's the risk
catastrophic.
We all take those risks.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do.
I think it's really important that everybody takes risks.
Yeah.
Or maybe risks is the wrong word. Challenge, and that might be the simple challenge of being able to go to a supermarket and buy some milk.
Yeah.
It might be going for a walk down the road. It might be doing the couch to 5K, which I think is where you originally started. And it's so important. And I think it kind of makes you feel alive. Certainly, whenever I take a risk or have a challenge, I feel sort of the endorphins and the excitement of it completely overwhelms the risk element of it. Rightly or wrongly, sometimes perhaps you take the wrong kind of risk. But
I'm just thinking back to not yesterday, but last weekend. I think Megan, the girlfriend, might disagree with this because last weekend was. So according to Hal, or as I refer to him sometimes, Hell, he said you are on the app. It's called Run with Hal. You are to he basically
might sponsor us now.
Yeah, Hal Higdon, his name is. He's written books. You are basically to run. It's like an interval training. So it's like 1.5 kilometers to warm up, and then it's a load of intervals, and then you just run flat out at 15K.
Wow.
And then you have like 1 kilometer rest, which essentially if you add it all up and you've got you take the slow with the fast, it worked out to about what I want race pace to be.
Okay.
And I got back, and I think it was 18.2 kilometers or something. I got back to Megan's house in Bristol, and having achieved it absolutely on the button of it, and just the utter elation. I walked into her lounge and my legs went. And she just and I think just, and it's the first time it's happened. Just pure exhaustion, and the breathing. And she's like, "Why is it taking 15 minutes for your breathing to get?" I was like, "It's fine, it's okay."
That's amazing. It shows that you can do it.
For that period of time, I can. But there's another 3K to find. So
that's also about coming back to what it is you take the risk as to whether or not you can get through, like Mike's implying. But also there's another side to that, which is also telling me, as what I used to do in my old life, is that actually you've not got it right. There's something that you've not got right in your training.
And I know what it is. You're right. And I know what it is, and what it is, and what it will be on the day is, if I go off too quickly, I'm bang in trouble. Because if you look at what he set me that day, the first 1.5 kilometers was supposed to be just a very, very gentle canter, and around 4:42 the first kilometer, and 4:50 something the next pro rata the next half, and it's like that's insanity. That I can't. That's
too quick.
Yeah, it's too quick. So immediately the heart rate goes whoosh, and then you're bang in trouble, because you're then about trying to control your heart rate. And as Angie will tell you, once it's up and high, it's quite difficult to get it down. So on the day, it will be going back to the adrenaline, will the adrenaline kick in? Will the overzealousness that I have a tendency sometimes to display, will I be able to control it? And if I can control it, we might have a chance. And if I can't, then it'll be somewhere away from the time that I secretly want to run.
Well, let's end it there.
Okay.
We wish you the very best of luck.
And how do people sponsor you?
Any number of ways. So it's all over. It's on Twitter. It's on Instagram. It's on the website.
Which Instagram?
Okay, I beg your pardon. So
we'll add them as links into the
at Somewhere House Somerset. What's our Instagram, Mike? That's really
it's Somewhere H Somerset.
All right, at Somewhere H Somerset, and our Twitter is at Somewhere Some. SOM, and then you can do it on the website, which is somewherehousesomerset.org.
And you can also find us on Facebook by searching for Somewhere House Somerset.
Okay, there we go.
Which I'm really rubbish at all of
And
those
me.
things, by the way.
And me. And also, just before we finish, just those of you that have sponsored, so there's been people from all over the place that have sponsored. Some of them anonymous, some of them not, but thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks, Rob, and good luck.
Thank you. Yay.